Welcome back to my React crash course, and this is going to be lesson number 2, which I'm going to be going over JSX components. And before we get started, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, comment down below if you're going to have any questions during the video. But now, let's get started. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually go over most of these files and then delete some of them, so files that we don't even need. Let's start with the app.css, and here we're just going to have styles that are going to be added to the app.js, and the main JS file here is going to be the index.js. And so in here we can see that we're going to be rendering app, and so we're importing app from app.js, which is going to be here. And it's basically a function which is going to return all of these elements. And this is how all this works. And what you can do is you can actually just copy this, go to index.js, and then just paste it in here, and it's still going to work the exact same way. So let's actually go to view, terminal, and we're going to run npm start. And when it starts, it should open up a new tab, and we can see that we get in there. So logo is not defined. And to actually define it, let's go back here. I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and now when we actually go back, we can see that it also works. And so the reason that the app.js file here exists is so that the index.js file wouldn't be too long. And so we can also do different CSS classes. So we can add a CSS class to the app.js and then also one for the index.js. And so what's going to happen is that these two CSS files are still going to be added to index.html, but it's just another way to make this project cleaner. And there's also different reasons, but I'm not going to go over them right now. So we can just go ahead and delete these two CSS files. Let's also delete the app.js, and we're actually going to be doing the same thing later on. So we're going to be creating different files so that our index.js file wouldn't be too long, but we're not really worried about that right now because all that we're doing right now is learning React. So let's go ahead and delete the import app and then also logo, because we're going to delete that too. So now we can save this, delete the logo svg, and then also these two right here, and then we can also delete the app.test.js. And once we're done cleaning all of that up, we can go ahead and also delete the report web vitals, delete that, and then also the import for that. We can delete that too. And if you want to, you can go to public and delete all of these logos and favicon too. And this could be your template for creating React projects. So you can go ahead and save that too. But if you're not going to do that, then we're actually going to delete the source and do all of that from scratch, because I want you guys to know how you can create the index.js file and all of the other files that we're going to need from scratch so that you have that basic knowledge. So let's go ahead and create the source file. Let's make the index.js file. And so now we're going to import all of the things that we're going to need. So we're going to start by importing React from React. And it should look like this. The second one is going to be import React DOM. So DOM is going to be capitalized, and then also the R from React is also going to be capitalized. And we're going to import this from React DOM and then client. And this is all that we're going to need for the imports right now. And now we're going to actually go ahead and make a variable of the root right here that we have in our HTML file. So to do that, we're going to write const root, and that's going to be equal to React DOM dot create root. And you can use document.query selector, or you can use document.get element by ID, which is what I'm going to use. So document.get element by ID doesn't really matter as long as you're actually selecting the element. So here I'm going to write root, and like I said before, we're going to be finding this div right here, and in this div we're going to be injecting all of the code from our React. So now that we've created the root, we're going to go ahead and render a function. So let's write root.render. And then in here, we're going to render a function. So let's go above here. And here we're going to make a function where we're going to return an HTML div with multiple elements. But first, we're just going to return, let's say, an h1. And so you can either write a normal function or an error function. So you could either do function, my function, or actually capitalize this, and then do something like this, or you can write const my function and then do an arrow function like this. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to do an arrow function, and then let's actually change this to first function and make sure that the first letter is capitalized, because it's not going to work if it's not. And then in here we're going to return an h1. So I'm gonna write h1 like this. Here we're gonna write first React element. And so there's one more thing left to do. We have to render this function in here. So let's go ahead and do that. First function. And now if we write npm start in here, wait for the tab to open, we can see our first React element appear. Let's go ahead and open developer console by right clicking and pressing on inspect, or using the shortcut, which is going to be Control Shift and I. And here if we go to the root, we can see that we have an h1. But if we go to the index.html file, we can see that we don't have any elements other than the div over here. So we can see that we've actually returned this HTML element. And if everything worked, then congratulations. But if not, then make sure that you copied everything correctly and you didn't make any mistakes. But now let's actually go over how we can return multiple elements, because if we actually try doing something like, let me put this in brackets here. So if we try returning another element, so let's try returning an h2, we can see that we get an error. And if I save, we can see that we have 2 errors. So that means that we can do that. And that's because you can't be returning more than one thing at a time. So one thing that we can do is we can return one element with multiple elements inside of it. And if you haven't guessed already, it's a div. So if we actually put a div in here, we can write as many elements as we want in here. So h1, let's make a paragraph, so p, and then in here we're just gonna write p, and so on. Let's go back in here, and now we can see that, let me actually zoom in, we have multiple elements in here, and that's because we put all of them in our div. And because we can actually return a function as an element, because here we're actually calling this function which returns elements, we can do the same thing in here. So let's go ahead and actually rename this function to something like video list, and then here we're going to do the same. So I'm going to write video list here and also in here. And actually, before we do that, I'm going to show you what happens if we try returning a function with the first letter being lowercase. So let's save this, and we can see that we get a warning. So we can see that it says video list is assigned a value but never used. That's because you're not allowed to return a function as an element in React when it's lowercase. And so we can see that it's going to return this element called video list that doesn't even exist. So that's one thing that you should be aware of. So let's go back to when it's capitalized. Let's delete all of this in here. And that's because what we're going to do now is we're going to make another function, so const video. And that's going to be equal to another function. And so in here, we're going to return a div. And in this div, we're going to have multiple elements. So we're going to have the image. We're going to have an h1, or let's actually make this an h2. Let's add a paragraph, and then we could also add different elements later on. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to make a basic clone of YouTube. And we obviously going to need an image, a title, and a paragraph, and then we're going to be adding maybe buttons and so on later on. That doesn't really matter right now because we're just going to be trying different things. So the cool thing about this here is that we can actually return as many videos as we want in the video list. So let's actually just write something in the h2. I'm just going to write video title, and then in the paragraph, I'm going to write video description. And I'm actually going to go to my channel, and in here what we're going to do is we're just going to copy one of the thumbnails. So let's say I'm going to just copy this one. You're going to go to inspect. We're going to select it. I'm going to move it here. There is going to be the image, so I'm just going to copy the URL here. Hopefully it works. I'm just going to actually do this. So copy image address. I'm going to go back to VS Code, paste it in here. I'm just going to write video thumbnail. And now we're going to go to the return in the video list, and we're going to return the video just like we did in here. So we're going to write video. And now if we go back in here, we can see that we're going to have an image, the video title, and then the video description. And so we can see that we've returned the video. Now, if we actually put this inside of a div or an element, doesn't really matter right now. So let's just put in a div. We can work on everything else later. We can actually copy and paste this multiple times, and we can see that we're going to have multiple videos show up. And so that's actually the cool thing about React, and I realized that I spelled this wrong, so that is my bad. Let's fix that. There we go. So all of that fixed in here. But yeah, so the thing is here that we're creating a function video which returns a div with multiple elements, and then in the video list function in here, we're actually returning a div with the video function that we have in here, which returns all of this. And that's basically what allows us to make multiple videos. And what we're going to be able to do later on is actually manipulate every single object in here. And what I mean by that is we're going to be able to set a certain source for every single video. So it's going to have a different image. So in here we have 4 videos, but if I actually go here, we can see that it has the same thumbnail and the same video title and description. But later on, we're going to be able to change that to a specific title and description. So they're all going to have different text and images, which is why you should actually stick around and wait for these videos to be uploaded. Or if they are, then make sure that you keep watching this crash course so that you learn React the fun way. And we're actually going to be doing CSS and working on other stuff in the next lesson, so make sure you stick around. And this is going to be the end of this video, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment down below if you have any questions or any specific React videos that you would like to see, and hopefully see you in the next video.